This is a homemade flying gyroscope. So I love this little gyroscope because it is exceedingly easy to build and very fun to throw around and play with. And no, I did not invent the flying gyroscope. I actually saw it being sold online a couple years ago as a toy, but I thought instead of buying one, it'd be fun if I could mess around with it and make my own little homemade version, you know, put my own little spin on it. So now I'll show you guys how to build your own flying gyroscope. So how I went about building this is actually very simple. You're only going to need two things. The first thing you're going to need is an empty duct tape roll. So you just want the cardboard that's inside the duct tape roll. And the last thing you need is some poster board. The very thick paper you can get at the dollar store for about $2 a sheet. So the first thing I did was I cut down my duct tape roll to about 3/4 of an inch width. And I left a little bit of duct tape wrapped around it so that the cardboard tube itself would not come apart. Next, I cut out a piece of poster board that was 2 1/4 inch wide and 1/2 inch longer than the circumference of my circle. So for instance, the circumference of my cardboard circle is 10 inches, so I cut out a 10 1/2 inch piece. That way the two ends of the paper can overlap one another. As you can see here. We will now take a pencil and draw a line across the top piece of paper where the two overlap, just like that. So next we'll start from this line that we just drew and we'll measure out 5 spaces equal distance from one another. In my case, they are 2 inches apart. We will now want to draw half circles at the top of each one of our sections. I found a cup that is 2 inches wide, so I've just been setting that on top of each section and tracing around it with an ink pen. So now once we have all of our circles drawn, we can go ahead and measure from the bottom of each one of the circles right there, and then we can go ahead and draw a line across our little overlapping section right there. Once you've done that, you can now go ahead and cut that out, just like I did here. And so now we can assemble it. So first take your poster board and put just a little piece of invisible tape at the very bottom of it like that. We will then tape it flush with the bottom of our cardboard circle, just like that, and then tightly wind it around. Then once it's tightly wound, just put a little bit of tape right there to hold it all together. We can then take it, flip it upside down, and tape right here, and then on the other side, right there. And now your flying gyroscope is complete. So you're probably wondering how this works. Well, this actually works off science! So I've done a lot of different experiments with different fin types and shapes and sizes, and what I just showed you how to make is the best type that I have personally come up with. But I highly encourage you guys to do your own experiments, and if you come up with a design that has these gyroscopes fly even farther, please feel free to leave the instructions for that in the comments below. Now it's kind of funny, the hardest part is not building the gyroscope, but learning how to throw it. And so there's primarily 2 different ways you can throw the gyroscope. The first way is kind of like throwing a baseball. You'll throw it over your shoulder, make sure it's straight, and then at the very last second give it a little bit of a spin to give it some extra distance. And then there's the second way. The second way is easiest, but it does not travel quite as far as the first way. So what you'll do is you'll take your gyroscope and you'll throw it sidearm, kind of like you would a football. And then again, at the very last second, give it a little bit of a spin to send it on its merry way and get that extra distance. And keep in mind that the harder you throw it and the more you spin it, the farther your flying gyroscope will go. And there you have it, my homemade flying gyroscope. Thanks so much for you guys watching. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the thumbs up and subscribe, and Lord willing, I will see you next week.
Thank you for watching, and please feel free to subscribe.